Okay, today we're going to talk about the standard format of pro forma invoice. We're going to talk about the pro forma invoice and explain each terms and conditions in a pro forma invoice, and also talk about the possible risk over there. Okay, number one. Why do we have a pro forma invoice rather than a sales contract? It is mainly required by the bank. If the payment term is LC but not TT, then you have to issue a pro forma invoice instead of a sales contract. However, if payment is under TT but not LC, you can issue sales contract or pro forma invoice, doesn't matter. Sometimes we issue both sales contract and pro forma invoice. Sales contract in details with all the terms and conditions, and pro forma invoice is a very simple, only one-page paper, just for LC issuing purpose. But in the majority cases, we just mix these two together, sales contract and pro forma invoice, and we just issue one set of legal paper and send for client's confirmation. So look at here, we have a PI number 12315, and here pro forma invoice number again, and the date. Okay, the seller and the buyer. We need to show exactly your full name, the seller's full name, and detailed address and detailed contact number, including landline and fax number. Do not put your short form like LMT instead of limited, or cop.com, cop. Instead of corporation, because if you put short form, it's gonna confuse the buyer when they issue the LC. They don't know which name they should follow. Especially you have to make sure your company name listed here must comply with your bank account name. That's very important. And also the buyer name is same rules. Same rule applies here for the buyer's name. Make sure this is correct and full version buyer's name, because this may cause discrepancy when you make documents. The buyer's name in the contract, in the pro forma invoice, is different with LC applicant's name. Then you don't know which one you should follow. It may cause discrepancy. The seller agrees to sell, and the buyer agrees to buy the mentioned goods on the terms and conditions stipulated below. Stipulated basically means listed below. Okay, if we are doing trading, so we have to make sure all this number 1, 2, 3, 4 are exactly same, of course, except for the price. Must be exactly same as per your supplier, your factory, your mill. Because when we do trading, we do back-to-back LC. You receive an LC from your buyer and you issue a back-to-back LC to your seller. So you have to make sure discrepancy and specification of the commodity or cargo or goods or services must be exactly same. Okay, here there's a total amount. How do we describe the total amount? Say US dollar 654,000. You don't have to put an end at here. 654,984. You have to put an end between US dollar and cents, and 25 cents. 25, so it makes it 25 cents only. Always put an only at the end of the description of the number. Latest date of shipment or latest shipment date by end of July 2012. This date gonna be the latest date of a shipment in LC. So this is the deadline. You have to ship the material. You have to send the cargo before this date. Otherwise, you will have discrepancy that's 100% sure. So be very careful about that. Port of loading. Main port of China nominated by the seller. And this is normally what we put there. Sometimes we ship it from Shanghai. Sometimes we ship it from Tianjin. We never know. Or Ningbo. So it's better we just mention nominated by the seller. Port of discharge. This is for my UAE clients. So normally I mention Jebel Ali, comma UAE. It's better the LC follow exactly the same format or layout because this is a layout. This is exactly layout wording you can have from majority of shipping companies. Insurance. In case of CFR or FOB to be affected by the buyer, that means you don't have to pay or you don't have to arrange insurance. In case of CIF, which is cost, insurance, and freight, then as a seller you have to buy the insurance. But I strongly suggest you try CFR or FOB term because CFR or FOB, the buyer has to arrange the insurance, so you don't have to include insurance policy paper into the LC documents presentation. And also, in case of cargo damage, who buys the insurance? Who has to apply for the insurance coverage or compensation? That's going to be a hard job. We ever tried this before. There's one time we sent the cargo and the cargo gets seriously damaged. I don't know damaged by what, but our steel coil was penetrated from the side and cargo damaged seriously. Then we have to apply insurance compensation. However, you know, those insurance companies, they will try the best to avoid any compensation or reimbursement. And the insurance company asks us to get compensation from the shipping company, and the shipping company kick us back to the insurance company. So if that case, if buyer bought insurance for that order, for that case, then we can save a lot of trouble. Okay, shipping marks, a seller's option. This is nothing to explain. You have to follow buyer's instruction on shipping mark. A shipping mark is something color label or color printed on the surface of the cargo or on the package of the cargo, just in order to select the cargo from a lot of cargo from the port storage. Without proper shipping mark, your cargo may be taken away by somebody else. Don't take it granted every port is well organized. Even Jebel Ali port, the most famous port in UAE, in the whole world, sometimes from time to time we have our cargo was taken by somebody else and we cannot even find it. We cannot even trace it. So with proper shipping mark, that's very important. Shipment term, partial shipment allowed. That's a mandatory term. You have to fight for it. Because with partial shipment allowed, you don't have to worry about less delivery. I have explained this risk in the LC. If you don't understand, just check my previous lesson on LC risk and management control. Transshipment not allowed. It's normally not allowed. Nobody will allow you transshipment from here to there. Therefore, everybody will try to get a direct vessel from exporting country to destination country, but try to get it because sometimes your cargo, especially container may get offloaded from one vessel and loaded to another. So in this case, it can be also understood as a transshipment. So it's better have it just for your payment security. Okay, number 11, terms of payment. The buyer should open through an international first-class bank accepted by the seller an irrevocable letter of credit payable at site at 90 days according to UCP 600. Okay, this is payment and LC, and we have another term only for payment and TT. So the buyer should open a LC from a first-class bank and also accepted by the seller. This is very important because some of the bank the buyer choose is not so reputed, and maybe your bank will have problem to accept them, especially when you do back-to-back trading. If you are manufacturer, you simply cash the LC, you don't need to use the LC facility and get the loan from your bank, then maybe you don't care. And here mentioned pay by the site or 90 days. So pay by the site is a site payment, and 90 days then it's a usance payment LC, usance LC. According to latest version of UCP 600, this one is basically, you don't have to mention there because every LC is as per UCP 600. Covering 100% of the pro forma invoice value. Of course, if you have advance payment, let's say 10%, then you mentioned cover 90% of the pro forma invoice value. In favor of the seller and negotiating against presentation of the shipping documents to any bank in Hong Kong, because our bank, we only use Hong Kong Bank, so we always mention to any bank in Hong Kong the details as follows. Because we are a trading company and this is very important for us, if this LC is negotiable with any bank in Hong Kong, that means we can choose HSBC Hong Kong, we can choose ICICI Hong Kong, we can choose DBS Hong Kong as our advising bank. If this sentence, if this clause is not there, and they nominate one bank for you to choose, and that bank is not your advising bank, then you will have a problem. You have to ask your client to amend the LC. Beneficiary advising bank, bank account number, and SWIFT. That's it. This is all they need to issue the LC. Any bank charged outside LC issuing bank should be for account of the seller. Okay, here we have to mention, here we have to inform, to tell our buyer in advance what fee you should pay and what fee we should bear. Of course, LC issuing banks charge, or LC issuing bank service charge, LC handling charge, such type of charge, of course, the buyer will pay for that. What is not so clear is LC amendment charge. LC amendment charge, in case LC amendment is requested by you, the seller, normally seller will have to pay it. Otherwise, the buyer won't cooperate in LC amendment. But sometimes LC amendment is not required. It's only because of some typing mistakes from LC issuing bank. Then in this case, the applicant, which is the seller, which is the buyer, has to pay for that. So we have to mention very clear in the contract. Otherwise, later on, it's really hard to tell who should pay for that. And in real situation, in reality, our client always try to avoid make payment to pay any LC amendment charge. LC amendment charge, no matter how many points, the bank will charge like $90 or $120. Some bank will even charge $180. It's not cheap. LC amendment charge should be for account of the seller if required by the seller. However, LC amendment charge should be for account of the buyer if such amendment is caused by LC issuing bank's mistake or buyer's wrong instruction to the bank. That basically means buyer's responsibility for this LC amendment, the buyer need to pay. The seller require the LC amendment, seller should pay. So make it very clear in the contract, save the trouble in the future. The covering letter of credit must reach the seller's bank account on or before so-and-so date. Okay, why we mentioned reach the seller's bank account? Because from the day the LC applicant issued the LC, and from the day the LC beneficiary received the LC, this could be totally different days. Could be a gap of several days or even several weeks. If LC issuing bank and LC advising bank, they have direct working relationship, the LC go so fast, within one day, within the same day, you can receive the LC. However, if there's a third party, LC issuing bank issued LC and goes to the third party, American bank, and American bank issued advise as an advising bank and advise the LC to your second advising bank. That may take time. That depends on third party, third bank, how efficiently they can work, and depends on local weekend or local public holidays. And also sometimes they send paper, original paper to your advising bank. That take a lot of time. The worst case, the beneficiary, the applicant issued LC and I waited 3 weeks for the LC arrival at my bank account. So we have to mention the LC must reach the seller's bank account. I don't care when you issue the LC. What I only care is when I have the LC in my hand, in my bank account. Without the LC, I cannot do anything, right? So you have to mention reach the seller's account and remain valid in China 25 days inclusive after the date of BL. That means LC allow you 25 days to present the documents. Of course, a lot of clients won't give you 25 days. Normally they give you 21 days. But we always ask 25 days. In case the letter of credit doesn't reach the seller within the time stipulated in the pro forma invoice, or the letter of credit opened by the buyer doesn't correspond to the pro forma invoice terms and conditions, and the buyer fails to amend thereafter its items within the time limit after receipt of notification by the seller shall have the right, okay, here comes what is really important. The seller shall have the right to change the price or delay the delivery of the goods. Do not mention cancel the pro forma invoice. Nobody like cancel the pro forma invoice, okay? If you don't get your LC on time, you can either change the price or you delay the delivery. That's it. What else you want? That's all. That's already good enough. If client accept these terms, that basically means you're safe. If you give your clients like 3 working days to issue this LC, and if they are late, then you have the right to change the price. But where's the LC issue date? It must be somewhere. Here. Yes, here. Account on or before this particular date. Or you can also mention LC must be issued within 3 or 5 working days from the date both parties sign the pro forma invoice. This is another way to mention it. Okay, I'll write it here for you. Within 3 or 5 working days. Within 3 or 5 working days from the date both parties signed this pro forma invoice. This is another way to give a time limit in order to issue LC. But normally I use this way to put a particular date. That's clear. That's very clear. Okay, next one. In the case that buyer doesn't fulfill the pro forma invoice or the buyer failed to issue LC, the buyer should pay 5% of the pro forma invoice value to the seller as penalty. I can say 90% of the clients won't accept it. Why we still have such a term? Because if you do trading and you are deal with a famous big meals and they ask you to put the penalty terms and you cannot avoid it, you have to pass the same term to your client. Otherwise, when your client failed to issue the LC, they can run away without any responsibility, but you have to pay 5% to your supplier, to the big meals. Of course, you don't want that to happen, right? So that is why there's a term like that. Or sometimes your client just sign it without even look at it. So if that happens, that's your luck. Other terms in LC should include third-party documents acceptable except for invoice and draft. This is very important terms because without this term, the the bank will consider all the documents except for invoice and the packing list as discrepancy, because all the documents like certificate of origin or bill of lading or shipping company certificate is issued by a third party, not from the buyer, not from the seller, but from a third party. So they may take it as a discrepancy. Charter party bill of lading acceptable. This only suitable for bulk shipment, okay? Bulk shipment, I'll write it here for you. Bulk shipment. If for container shipment, you don't have to mention this. Number 3, in case transferable LC, please add this LC is transferable through, okay, this is our bank, Swift code. A lot of mills, I have to mention, a lot of mill of manufacturers, they don't accept transferable LC because transferable LC, the one who transfer this LC, they are not obligated to make payment to you. Only LC first applicant who really issue this LC is legally bound to make payment. No matter how many people get inside, no matter how many traders, how many middlemen there transferred this LC. This LC can transfer from one trader, two traders, three trader, eventually to the manufacturer, right? So only the first one who issued the LC, which is the end user, they are legally bound to make payment. All the traders in between, they can run away from payment responsibility. That's why manufacturer doesn't like transferable LC. They don't even know who is real applicant, who is holding the legal responsibility to make payment to them. But, and a back-to-back LC, non-transferable LC, if I'm the trader, I receive a LC from my client, then I do a back-to-back LC to a manufacturer in China. I hold the responsibility, legally responsibility to make payment as long as my manufacturer present the documents and without discrepancies. And that's why my bank will hold my funds 110% all facility in order to do a back-to-back LC rather than issue a separate LC. Nobody likes transferable LC, so basically you don't even have to consider this, because nowadays, do you receive transferable LC? For a long time I didn't receive it. Okay, the next one is for Saudi market. This is something special only from this country, because Saudi Arabia, the customs require a country of origin to be mentioned on surface of the cargo on the package. Otherwise, they will not clear the cargo. They will not allow you to clear the cargo. Number 5, all bank charges, including LC, opening fee, amendment fee inside UAE Saudi to be paid by the buyer. Okay, this is mentioned again, who should pay the fee. Number 6, spelling or typing errors not affecting the LC currency and amount. LC validity and shipment date and description of goods are acceptable. Extremely important, because when you produce the documents, you may make mistake, you may make typo. Typo means typing mistake. And as long as you have this term, you're safe. If you don't have this term, any missing comma, dot, or wrong spelling may consider as discrepancy, and therefore you lose your payment guarantee. That's a disaster. Okay, here against, that means this is the payment proof. Once I send you these documents, you're going to perform the payments. That means against. So against what? The first one, against invoice and packing list from the seller after production. That basically means the balance payment has to be made after production but before shipment. So this is quite safe for the seller but not safe for the buyer. Once the seller finishes the production, the seller just need to make invoice and packing list, both documents by themselves. Then they wait for the payment. Then after receive the payment, the seller will send the material, ship the material. So before the material gets shipped, you still control the material because you have 20% down payment and you have the cargo in hand. You still own the cargo, so it's quite limited risks. For majority of the country, for any clients, is basically safe. However, just in case, in the case of price collapse, see, like what we do is raw material of construction raw material. In 2008, the price may drop like 40% within several months. That's a big crisis, global crisis. In that case, even you get 20% of advance payment, still you're not safe. Okay, but except for 2008, such big crisis, basically you're fine. Do not put like MTC or inspection report at here. Only make invoice and packing list. You send invoice and packing list, you ask for the payment. If you have to make MTC or inspection report as payment proof, this is gonna be a lot of problem for you, a lot of headaches. Number one, to produce such documents, MTC and inspection reports, it takes time. That means you finish production, you cannot get paid on time, so you cannot ship the material on time. Sometimes inspection report from inspection company, they will indicate some quality claim, quality issue. And such quality issue may result in balance payment rejection from your buyer. So this is another risk. Try to avoid these two documents as a proof, as a balance payment proof. Another one is copy of the origin bill of lading after shipment. So that means you get only 20% of the advance payment, and balance, you ship the material before you get balance payment. It's quite risky, only in case you really trust the client and the price is stable or go up, because you hold the BL, you hold the bill of lading. The original BL is the ownership of the cargo. So as long as you hold the original BL and the price going up, or you make sure your clients really need the material, need the cargo, then you're still safe. However, when the price collapse, the price going down, or your clients, the buyer, lose the desire to take the cargo, if they lose the project, they lose their jobs, a lot of things can happen. A buyer may change their mind anytime. So this is not a so safe payment term. And some countries like Pakistan or Bangladesh or some African country or Algeria, the buyer may intentionally delay the payment. And once the cargo arrive at destination country, also Iran, yes, Iran. When the cargo arrive at destination country's port, the cargo will be stored at the port storage for months. The buyer simply doesn't like to pay. They intentionally delay your payment, and after 6 months, some country, the port has limited storage space, so they will have to put your cargo, put your goods on auction. And once this happened, then you are in a big trouble. Then somebody else will jump out and tell you, on the auction, you may get only 50% of your cargo value. However, we will pay you 55%, let's say 55%. What is your choice? Because the cargo is with the destination port custody, and you are not even allowed to touch your own cargo to ship it to some other places. And if you want to do so, that's going to be very costly. So for sure, you're going to lose a lot of money. But if you don't ship it to some other places, if you cannot find another buyer, then you just wait for your cargo on auction, and that's going to be a big loss for you. So this is not a very safe payment term. Only in case you fully trust your client, only in case you believe your client is honorable, a reliable company, and the price go up or stable, you can do this. Of course, we have another payment term like a cash against document, or DP or DA. DP is documents against payment, DA is documents against acceptance. Even we have open credit, I will not mention here because we don't like such type of payment. Only for very reliable clients we can do that. Otherwise, we don't do it. I will never suggest you do anything like open credit or DA or DP, even cash against document. Try to avoid it. So majority of the payment is going to be LC and TT. So I already mentioned here. Bank information for TT, beneficiary name and bank and account number. Some country they have IBAN. IBAN is much easier. In China we don't have IBAN, but some country like UAE and Saudi, all Middle East country we have IBAN. You just need an IBAN. You don't need to know bank name. You don't need to know account name. You don't need to know SWIFT code. Just IBAN. You can easily locate the beneficiary. In case the advance payment doesn't reach the seller within the time stipulated in the pro forma invoice, the seller shall have the right to change the price or delay the shipment. And 5% of the pro forma invoice value will be paid as penalty, only in case you have similar terms from your supplier. Otherwise, I don't suggest you put such terms because nobody like it. It's going to be a problem for your clients to accept it. Down payment within the date stipulated above. If balance payment not reaching seller's account 45 days after payment notice, seller has the right to resell cargo without advance payment refund. Okay, this is very important. If your buyer don't pay you after 45 days, of course you want to resell your material, resell your cargo. Another important clause you have to mention, which is in case of delay payment. Sometimes the buyer like to take the cargo, but they don't have money to pay you. They have to delay the payment because they didn't get paid by their clients. So in this case, okay, we can keep it for you for 1 month or 2 months. We keep it in some warehouse or storage or port storage. But you have to pay us. You have to bear the loss for our financial loss, for the port handling charge, for the port storage or port penalty. That's why we have this clause. In the case of buyer delays the payment, buyer should bear seller's financial loss at interest rate 1% per month. Okay, I have made 1% per month here. It's quite high. You can make it like 0.5% per month. For total balance amount and possible storage charge and port penalty. We have to mention it really clear because this shit happen a lot. Your buyer have to delay the payment and after 2 months finally receive the payment, and therefore you have to pay a lot of penalty to the port, to your supplier, to the bank. Then who is going to reimburse you? Who is going to cover your loss? So it's better mention it clear in the contract so you don't face trouble eventually with your buyer. Documents. Okay, here the documents mentioned here is the documents as a seller you need to present to LC applicant, to LC issuing bank. So first set of documents is commercial invoice. For UAE market, for Saudi Arabia market, for any Middle East market, Middle East country, they will require documents to be legalized. What documents to be legalized? Commercial invoice and certificate of origin. For UAE market, we always ask client to do legalization locally, and we do not legalize the documents. Document legalization will take a lot of time. That may delay your documents presentation and also at additional cost. So this is something I really try to avoid. Document legalization, basically you present the documents to UAE embassy in China or UAE consulate in Hong Kong, and for the stamping, just for the stamp. They don't even read your document. You present the document there, they sign and stamp, and then they send it back. Simply waste time and energy. waste time and money. And such procedure may take 2 weeks or sometimes 3 weeks, depends on the working days. During big holidays, takes 3 weeks. Then definitely you're going to miss the document presentation period. And for Saudi market, this is mandatory, and there's no way to avoid it. For UAE clients, they can do it locally. For Saudi clients, they cannot. They have to do it. But you don't have to do it with your own company name. You can ask any company to do it for you. For us, we have a sister company registered in China, so we can use that company to do it. However, that company do the legalization, and that company issue the LC, a separate LC, and a different name. So this LC, this invoice, sorry, not issue LC, but issue invoice. This invoice cannot be presented to this LC because the different company name, different issuer's name. However, we can send it outside of the LC by DHL just for customer clearance purpose. Okay, number 2, detailed packing list. Number 3, full set of clean on board ocean bill of lading. Clean on board is only required in the case of bulk shipment. For container shipment, there's no clean on board because you already stuff your cargo into the container, and the shipping company cannot witness the cargo condition, therefore to say clean or not. So try to avoid clean on board. For this client, for our client, they always ask clean on board. It's not required by the client, but also required by the LC issuing bank. They want the cargo to be clean. That means no obvious damage to the cargo surface or cargo condition or cargo packages. Certificate of Origin, COO. Certificate of Origin, in short, COO, issued by CCPIT. CCPIT is a China consulate for promotion of international trade, CCPIT. And CCPIT is Chinese chamber. So if LC mentioned certificate of origin must be issued by Chinese chamber, that's okay, because CCPIT is Chinese chamber. Beneficiary certificate stating that one set of non-negotiable documents has been sent to the buyer by courier within 15 days from date of the shipment. This easy documents, you can easily make it. Certificate issued by the carrier or master or owner or the agent of the vessel, of the shipping of the vessel, stating. So this is a certificate from shipping company or the agent issues such certificate. This is basically mandatory for any bank, for any LC. There's some terms. For example, this is a regular vessel. This is a vessel covered by so-and-so institution, and this vessel is allowed to Arabian ports, and this vessel will not call Israel or Iranian ports, things like that. For any Middle East bank, this is mandatory. The seller should present the following document outside the LC directly sent to the buyer's office. This is about MTC and inspection report, because the buyer, they want to make sure the quality is right, but with only commercial invoice, packing list, and certificate of origin and bill of lading, they cannot guarantee the quality. So they will ask you to send MTC and inspection report through the bank channel. But what is the point? What is the purpose of doing so? Because the bank has no idea what is the technical feature, what is the mechanical property, what is the chemical component of your product, of your cargo, of your material. You send the MTC to the bank, you send the inspection report to the bank will not, the bank cannot guarantee the quality for the buyer, and the bank will try to find discrepancy from these documents. So I will always ask my buyer to accept these two documents, only these two documents, to be sent outside of the LC, directly to your office. And you have to trust me. If you don't trust me, you force me to send MTC and inspection report through bank channel, I will not accept this LC at all. Shipping advice. The seller shall immediately upon the completion of the loading of the commodity, notify the buyer by fax or by email of the pro forma invoice number, not name of commodity, quantity, or blah, blah, blah. This is easy documents produced by yourself. Inspection and claim. Such term, as a trading company, normally we just copy exactly from our supplier, from the manufacturer. No matter what terms they give me, I will give the same term, I will pass the same term to my client. It's a quite long term. I will not read everything here for you. Basically, this is to avoid your responsibility for this. However, of those claims for which the insurance company and or the shipping company are to be held responsible, this is to avoid your own responsibility. Some cargo damage is done by shipping company, especially in a bulk shipping, bulk vessel. Our cargo, our material may get damaged by other heavy cargo on top of it, because the bulk shipment is basically a huge container inside the belly of the vessel, and they put your material here and then put somebody else's material on top of yours, and such layout, different layers of cargo, different layers of material, may your products may get damaged. So shipping company should be responsible for that, but not the seller. Okay, this is these 5 lines is telling you how to file a case against quality issue and file a case against quantity issue, and within how many days you're going to file a case, and how we are going to reply. And we just mentioned send reply to the buyer. That's it. Nobody complained about this. Actually, this is not a fair term. That means you file a case and I just send a reply, okay, I receive it. And we are not going to do anything. It's not mentioned there. So if your buyer didn't notice this, just let it go. Here is only for my product, hot rolled coil. But you can copy the similar terms, similar clause for your product. For example, 1 or more straps broken, or for example, the package get damaged, a little bit loose. However, the condition should not be claimed by the buyer. But still in tight condition, or still your cargo in good condition, then such claim, then it should not be claimed by the buyer. This one is also for the hot roll product. It's talking about atmospherical rust. This is quite normal on my products. Okay, this one is very important. Destination port charge, demurrage charge, and shipping company penalty, container charge should not be claimed by the buyer if negotiation documents submitted within the period stipulated above. What I mean? That means as a seller, as long as you present the documents on time, you are free of such penalty and additional charge, which is destination port charge, demurrage charge. Demurrage, that means you send the material there and then nobody clear the cargo, then the port will start to charge you demurrage charge, which is basically a port storage penalty. Shipping company penalty, that is normally happen on a container vessel. If you cannot clear, if the buyer cannot clear the cargo for too long and the cargo occupy the container space, then the shipping company will start to charge a penalty, which is also container charge. And what is the period stipulated above? It is here. It is 25 days. Do you still remember? We mentioned 25 days somewhere. I cannot find it. Let's see, it should be here. 25 days, where's 25 days? Oh, here, 25 days. This 25 days means we have to present the documents to our bank within 25 days after bill of lading date. And 25 days, as long as you send the documents to the bank, then you are free of such a penalty. Of course, 25 days is not so fair to the buyer because the vessel, container vessel from China to Middle East only takes 3 weeks, 21 days. And you present the document to your bank, which is in Hong Kong, within 25 days, And of course, the buyer may receive the documents really late, and therefore there's a port penalty or shipping line penalty happened. And actually this happened a lot. For some reason, you may delay presenting the documents. Sometimes your documents get typing mistake, especially in bill of lading. Bill of lading really take a long time to issue, take shipping company a long time to issue bill of lading. From the bill of lading date, the shipping company may take like 7 to 10 days to issue bill of lading. And due to bill of lading is a legally ownership documents, so they have to send the original paper to you by DHL. And once you receive the bill of lading, and you found there's some typing mistakes, and due to that typing mistakes, for sure, you will have discrepancy, then you have to send this original paper back to the shipping company, and shipping company can issue the new one, provided they receive the old one. Otherwise, they will not issue the new one for you, and this procedure will take another week. So sometimes really, you have to delay to present the documents. And in this case, your client may receive the documents really late, and therefore, they're facing port penalty. So with these terms here, it's very clear. If you didn't delay the shipment, if you didn't delay the presentation, your client should pay for that, as long as you accept 25 days for us to present the documents. If you give us only 21 days to present the documents, and I present the documents within 21 days, you are going to pay the penalty. If I present the documents more than 21 days and I have asked LC amendment for that, then probably I need to bear for the port penalty. And the port penalty is really expensive. Like Jebel Port, one container, each day you're going to pay like 150 Chinese yuan, one container. So sometimes we have 10 container. One day we're going to pay 1,500 Chinese yuan. And just for 10 days delay, 15,000. Okay, next one, force majeure. You don't have to understand what is that. Basically, just copy the same term. For my last 12 years trading experience, I have never met this before. I've never met such situation. So I just basically copy and paste the same term on each PI. Arbitration. So arbitration, that means there's a dispute. There's a dispute and we cannot solve it in a friendly way. So we have to go a third party. It's called arbitration commission. Let them to judge who is right and who is wrong, who should compensate who. You can copy the same terms here, but just try to mention China International Economic and Trade Arbitration Commission as the referee, as the judge. Because for any client in Middle East, in US, in Europe, it's really hard for them to come to China and do arbitration with you. So if you choose China, that basically means there's no way for your client to win the case. If you choose, for example, your client is in USA and you put arbitration as USA Arbitration Commission or USA Arbitration Council, then it's going to be your problem. By the time if your client refuses to make payment to you, you have to travel all the way from China to USA to win the case. You can imagine that's quite hard for you as a Chinese. I always put China. Some of my clients, like 10% of my clients, will complain, we are in UAE, how can we do arbitration in China? So I say, okay, I cannot do arbitration in UAE as well. So let's do it from a third party. Then I will always recommend Hong Kong or sometimes Singapore. And my client just accepted. And of course, some clients will insist on UAE, and we also accept it, because if situation is really bad, you and clients have to go for arbitration. That's something really bad. And tax and duties, this is extremely important because nowadays a lot of countries are changing the import duty, export duty, or apply anti-dumping. So in case you sign the contract, you have like tax rebate 13%, And before you can ship the material, before you can customer clear, before you can clear the Chinese customs, then China suddenly cancel that 13% tax rebate. What can you do? You're going to suffer huge loss, 13%. So we have to make it very clear, who is going to pay for that if such things happen? And another example, in UAE, recently UAE start from Saudi Arabia, they're applying anti-dumping for Chinese steel material. Now they're widen that range into a lot of different countries, a lot of different products. They're putting anti-dumping duty 5% or some particular number, for example, $169 per ton. If by the time you send the material, you ship the material already, and suddenly anti-dumping happened, and before the cargo arrive, there's anti-dumping duty. Who's gonna pay for that? So here I give you two choices, the buyer and the seller. Either seller or buyer bear 100% of the loss, or each party bears 50% of the loss. Normally we choose the second one. Okay, the last one is talking about from which date this pro forma invoice get into effect. So the last term number 18, we're talking about from which date this pro forma invoice become effective. From the day both parties signed this pro forma invoice. See here, we have seller's signature, a company, and a signature and date, signature date. The signature should be around this empty places. And there's a date. So who signed the pro forma later and who marked the date? So from this date, this pro forma invoice become effective. Okay, that's all. Thank you so much. I see you next lesson.